One of the interesting things with the Nintendo Switch 2 is kind of how people take some information and run with it despite it not necessarily even being confirmed or factual when it comes down to what is happening. And the most recent thing that we're seeing here in the arc of misinformation, and it's really no fault to who we're going to talk about here when it comes to Doctray81 and Nintendo Prime and some of these other people that have reported on what is happening with nobody having a Nintendo Switch 2 dev kit, is because there is a apparent Nintendo partner that came out and listed all of these different things that it takes for you to get a Nintendo Switch 2 dev kit. And maybe that's some of the reasons why we haven't seen X, Y, or Z game on the platform. And this is something that I saw before. I saw Doctray81 report on it. I've seen other people say it in my stream. And it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm not so sure about that. We don't know who does or who doesn't. If they don't have a game yet, we don't know if they have one or not. All this stuff is NDA. Developers cannot just openly speak about these things, especially when it comes to development kits, how much you got them for, where they are, when you get them, or anything like that. When you got it, all that stuff is just NDA'd. So it was interesting to see Doctray81 make a video talking about how a Nintendo partner, this partner is called Lynx Byte Games, shared a bunch of information about how to get a Nintendo Switch 2 dev kit, which I'm almost positive would be NDA'd information. So I did watch the video, and now there's a bunch of articles that are being written on it. You have WCCF Tech, you also have other places that are writing on it now, you have other YouTubers that are making videos on it, and I wanted to go over some of that first, and then the debunking that is kind of happening now, because Nate the Hate has now stepped into this and kind of echoed some of the stuff that I felt when people would come to my stream telling me that this developer doesn't have one, this developer this developer that, which Switch 2 dev kits, and I'm like, this information is not public, or this information's not known. But anyway, let's talk about here. So Lynx Byte Games recently shared on social media some new information on Nintendo's current guidelines for getting access to a Nintendo Switch 2 dev kit. Simply porting a game over from the original system or any format does not automatically grant publishing rights on the new system, as every game, even for existing partners, must be individually approved, with approval only being given to games that showcase the capabilities of the system by taking advantage of its features, including 4K support at 60 FPS or up to 120 FPS at 1440p resolution in docked mode, implementing game chat and mouse control, supporting HD Rumble 2 and game share, and more. Besides being a showcase of the system's capabilities, any developer pitching a game must clearly outline how their title brings value to the platform by leveraging some of these features alongside a detailed release plan. Now, this is something, once again, that is incredibly detailed and something that I would think that these developers would not have access to or would not be able to say overall. This is just something that we haven't heard when it comes to any developer out there, and definitely information that I would say Nintendo would just be like, no, you can't be talking about it this openly. So after that, people have came out, made videos talking about it, and then Nate the Hate actually posted up on Nintendo Prime's video, where Nintendo Prime titled the video, "Here's Why Nobody," in quotations, "has a Switch 2 dev kit and how to get one." And he said, really, on there? Now, of course, Prime doesn't always say it's like 100%, but at the same time, this information that he's relaying, he's definitely seems like, okay, this information is real, or it's somewhat real. And Direct Feed Games came out and stated, no, their claims are not accurate, and their account of how dev kit distribution works is flawed in many ways. Nintendo Prime did respond to that, saying, hey, look, he'd asked for right information, like, do you have any better knowledge, like, what's up with this? And after that, Nate didn't respond. So I think that the situation here, at least that I see at least, is that we have a developer that I'm not sure knows exactly what they're talking about overall, because there's definitely games on the Nintendo Switch 2 that don't do all that by every single strict guideline and stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure that Nate and his sources and the developers that he does know, because obviously he has sources because he's been correct on a multitude of different things when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2 so far. Clearly, that's not the process. Clearly, that's not some type of golden rule, because now I'm starting to see other people say, oh, the rules are too strict and strenuous. It's putting a lot of pressure on developers. That's the reason why Expedition 33 or other games, it's like, no, that's not it, guys. And we have to kind of just like wait, or we'll probably never get this information when it comes down to it. I'm pretty sure that there's some type of, I would say, games that you have to put together, or things that you have to say to them in order to get a development kit, just like you have to do with any other console manufacturer, with Microsoft or Sony. I just can't go and say, hey, I want a development kit. All right, here, pay for one. You got it. You know, I mean, there's definitely guidelines for all these different things, but I don't think it's necessarily all this stuff. And even when I watched Doc Trey's video, I didn't comment on it. I didn't make a video on it. Didn't really say anything because I was not sure about that. And lo and behold, I felt that Nate could come out and say something with this. And he did, because it smelled kind of fishy with them just saying all this stuff, because once again, that just seems like it'd be NDA'd. So I'm not really sure what their goal was with this or what's going on. I haven't heard of Link's Bite games. I don't know what games that they make, so I'm kind of looking up what they do. But overall, it does seem like this is inaccurate at this point. So looks like they've made a game on Steam before, and I haven't really seen anything that they've done on the Nintendo Switch 2, but overall, it looks like they do have some partners that they do work with when it comes to console gaming, and that they do have, I guess, an official Nintendo partnership in some type of way, importing services overall to Nintendo Switch 1, Xbox, PC. If you look at their website, it goes over this. So yeah, either way, it is what it is on this one overall, and we'll see what kind of happens going forward in the future with this. But what do you guys think? You can let me know in the comment section. But before we get into the next topic, please hit that like button. Also click that subscribe button if you are someone new, and hit that notification bell to get my videos as soon as they drop. Now let's go ahead and jump into the next topic here, and we are going to discuss what is happening with Octopath Traveler. My man Stealth put up a new sales comparison, or just more like sales tally, for the Octopath Traveler series. And obviously HD 2D has been in the news lately with a bunch of new HD 2D games that are going to be coming out very soon here, with Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D Remaster, in addition to Octopath Traveler 0 and The Adventures of Elliot, The Millennial Tales. Those are all coming out within the next year. That's going to be 2026 for The Adventures of Elliot. Octopath 0 is on December 4th, and we've got Dragon Quest that's coming out here soon as well. So I think that's the reason why Stealth decided to talk about the Octopath Traveler series and kind of what's going on there with the new game coming out. And he talked about how it's not sold badly, that the Octopath Traveler series has sold 3 to 4 million units. The Nintendo Switch version apparently by itself has sold 3 million or so. So if you're looking at that, the rest of the systems that it's came out on has been about 1 million units. And then if you look at Octopath Traveler 2, it's around 1 to 2 million units. When it comes down to it, so a bit less than the original game. And I think the reason why for that is that the original game was just kind of unique, and it was fresh, and it was an exclusive on the Nintendo Switch, and it launched at just the right time with just enough interest, with a lot of people rapidly expanding to buy the system, because Super Smash Bros. Came out that year in 2018, so people were picking up the system and getting Octopath Traveler, as that year was not as heavy as 2017 for games, so a lot more people just decided to try out Octopath Traveler 1. I think by Octopath Traveler 2, there was a lot more competition in terms of when it released and everything, plus they didn't get the Nintendo Direct boost overall of being an exclusive, or the Nintendo exclusive boost. So I do think that that was also another thing as well, because it was a multi-platform release with Octopath Traveler 2. So yeah, not bad at all. Over 5 million units sold between Octopath Traveler 1 and 2. So yeah, they're definitely going to be making more HD 2D games, and of course make another Octopath Traveler game. And of course with these HD 2D games, you're not going to spend a massive, huge budget on the game development itself. It's going to be something to where it's not going to be too bad. It's trying to emulate the Super Nintendo era. Now obviously it doesn't cost as low as a Super Nintendo type game, because you do have a lot more advanced techniques and strategies and graphical effects and details. But at the same time, it's not going to be the same level of a Final Fantasy or a Kingdom Hearts or a game like that. And people do love Octopath Traveler. People do love HD 2D, despite the internet trying to tell you that there's too many games and stuff like that. But to me, it's just another style of game. Just like we have the Pixel 2D, we have TMNT, and we have all sorts of other stuff that come out when it comes to like Ninja Gaiden Ragebound and just cool pixel side scrollers. So this is kind of their own thing with Square Enix, and how they like to do old school or retro style RPGs just brought back in the modern and new era. And I think they can experiment a little bit too, and not have to worry about bringing down the house when it comes to the financial situation. So I do think that HD 2D is here to stay, and I think that we're going to see a lot more HD 2D games, especially if these games coming out like Octopath Traveler and Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD and The Adventures of Elliot do really well, which I do think that The Adventures of Elliot could be the best-selling HD 2D game since Octopath Traveler. Multi-platform release on the Nintendo Switch 2, very cool looking game, very unique and fresh, just like Octopath Traveler 1 was. I can see that game doing pretty well. Don't know if it's going to do 3 million units plus, but I do think that it's going to do pretty well overall, because it's a really cool fusion and mix of like a Zelda type game, also like Mana series, plus of course HD 2E flair kind of put in there, so I think it's going to do well. But what do you guys think overall when it comes to the sales of the Octopath Traveler series so far and the future of HD 2D games? You can let me know in the comment section below. But now we are going to move on to a final topic here, and that's going to be discussing the Digimon story Time Stranger Digi-Ride trailer. We got a brand new trailer. This is one of the better looking RPGs coming out this year on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC, and it's already been leaked, somewhat rumor leak thingy, for the Nintendo Switch 2 as well. I would expect Bandai Namco to release a Nintendo Switch 2 version, just like they got a late port for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, so I think that that's going to happen here with the new Digimon game. So publisher Bandai Namco and developer Media.Vision have released a new trailer for Digimon Story Time Stranger, showcasing the game's rideable Digimon. Digimon Story Time Stranger is due out for the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC via Steam on October 3rd. So yeah, not too long from that at this point, as we are humming through August. It's going to be September, and you guys know what time it is in September. That is Nintendo Direct time. So there is a lot of different games that people are probably going to be looking forward to seeing shown off at the last Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase. People were a little bit let down with some of the third-party games there, although there was some awesome stuff. Obviously, we got Adventures of Elliot, which we talked about. We got Octopath Traveler 0. We got Monster Hunter Stories 3. There were a number of good games, in my opinion, at that show, but some people were looking for a bit more variety and some of the other stuff that we know is coming. So, for example, games like Elden Ring. That game is going to be at Nintendo's Gamescom presentation. That's going to be playable for the fans to go and play in Germany at the end of August here. August 20th through like the 24th, so coming up pretty soon here. So it's one of those things to where I think that we are going to see more games like Digimon be announced at a Nintendo Direct later. We still have to see. It looks like all these games are set because Nintendo has so many of these games playable for the Gamescom presentation at their booth. Games like Silksong and, like I said, Elden Ring, in addition to Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, Borderlands 4, Metroid Prime 4. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to be playable. Even Pokemon Legends ZA, that's going to be there as well, along with some of the games that already released this year, like Donkey Kong Bonanza and Mario Kart World. So I think that Nintendo's just getting set up, getting ready for that next big Nintendo Direct, for that next big push for the last number of months of the year. Now, there's been some new talk about what Nintendo could do, and I find it very fascinating because you have the Mario 40th anniversary, so you know there's going to be something Mario related that they're going to do. Now, we don't know how big or small the event's going to be, but since it's the 40th anniversary, I would guess that there's going to be something in terms of a Mario 40th anniversary Nintendo Direct, where they're going to show off the next big Mario game for 2026, or they're going to at least announce some ports of previous games in a collection for the Nintendo Switch 2. I still also think that Metroid Prime 4 Beyond could get its own Nintendo Direct, or own Direct focused on that game, considering how massive that game is. And of course, we still have the standard Nintendo Direct that's probably going to be happening as well, based off of just the history of Nintendo and how they really haven't detailed when it comes to release dates a lot of the games set for the end of the year. So even games like Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, a game like that, in addition to stuff like Kirby Air Riders, Metroid Prime 4, all of these actually need release dates as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing exactly how that works out too, which it's interesting because I did not include Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment in my video talk about top 10 upcoming Nintendo Switch 2 games, because I kind of forgot about that game, as it's not a set 2025 release date. It's coming out this winter, so that could be this year or it could be early next year. So we'll see about that game, as well as that is not going to be at Nintendo's Gamescom presentation, but they did show it off at the Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase. So we'll just see what happens with that game. I think that it definitely could make this year, but it also might slip to early next year depending on what happens with Koei Tecmo and the development of that game, and where they just want to slot a lot of the games that are coming out, as we are running out of the months in the year and there's still a number of big first-party games like I talked about, plus big third-party games coming out as well. So I think Nintendo's going to try to stack it up when it comes to having a big third-party game and having a big first-party game to finish out the year, and of course have a strong Christmas sales period, as that's going to be the first holiday with the Nintendo Switch 2. So what do you guys think overall when it comes to everything that we talked about here? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.